Someone said to me recently, if you don't go rural, you're not serious about financial inclusion, and I agree with them. So Uganda is a perfect example. 75 to 80% of the population of Uganda is rural. If you are unable to find a service that reaches the rural population of Uganda, then you're not doing financial inclusion. And it's true of virtually all the countries in which we work. The rural population is far larger than the urban population. We have to find a way to reach them if we want to be meaningful.
Over 75% of the world's rural population is financially excluded, which means that they don't have access to tools or services that help them put money aside for savings or protect them against risks with microinsurance. So that's a huge gap, and this is where the MasterCard Foundation feels that we can make a difference.
It allows them more options and more resources in the time of need. And it also allows them to face cyclical financial demands, such as education, such as healthcare, etc. This is why we must do it. It's a human right. It's a human right to live with dignity, to know that you'll have enough food and you can feed your kids and take them to school when they need to go to school. How we do it is a more complicated thing. And it entails us working with the government in order to have the laws that are in place to engage and to encourage the private sector to deliver services. It requires infrastructure that is required, such as electricity, such as roads, such as telecommunication mast towers. It requires an agent network that is there to support and to provide services to the communities which we are targeting. And it requires innovation in products so that the products we're delivering to communities in the rural areas make sense to them and are relevant to them.
Well, DFS is about reaching the poor, and the poor are mostly in the rural areas. And rural areas, of course, are covering most of the people that were unbanked. So within the digital space, we're looking at, of course, expanding the services to the higher population, which is unbanked, and we're looking at over, say, 70 to 80% of the population. Methods of reaching the rural. One is through, of course, sensitization programs. Another is through drives and acquisition programs. For MNOs like us, telecoms, we look at, of course, the regulator requires us to have, of course, knowledge of who the customer is. And it's pretty much the same as what the bank is requesting or requires. Through partnerships and networking with all other third-party organizations, we'd like to have enough partnerships to make sure that we reach the unbanked, and that is mostly the population that's in the rural.
The majority of the population of the countries that we work in are living in rural communities. As we speak right now, many of them do not have access to financial services. And the best way to give them access to financial services is to expand access points. As we speak right now, in a country like Tanzania, 42.5% of the population is within 5 kilometers of the financial access points. So in order to increase the financial inclusion, you need to increase the percentage of population that is within proximity of an access points. And some of the initiatives that we're doing in the focus countries that we're working in is working with some of the mobile network operators and some of the stakeholders in driving expansion of agent and financial access points in those rural communities.
I think going rural is important because of financial inclusion. Everybody has the right to access some financial services, the basic of the financial services. Through partnerships, through main banking stream, through MNOs, which is the mobile commerce platforms, because obviously our main banking partners can only do so much. So it has to be done through a multiple set of partnerships for us to reach financial inclusion.
Why should we go rural? I think what is important is that we learn a lot already about developing urban areas, and you have a lot of people in rural areas without access to financial services. So as UNCDF, I think it's really important that we invest our money and our funds in order to go, let's say, much more and better understand the needs of rural people to develop the best product and services. Then concerning how do we need to go there? I think what will be key is creativity. I think the model that we have developed in urban areas will not be the right model to go to rural. And so we really need to focus the attention on new models, new partnerships and new ways of working to reach these people in rural areas.
Well, if you look at the extent of financial inclusion in different countries in Africa and including in countries such as Uganda, people in rural areas do not have access to financial services. And for the financial service providers such as banks, mobile network operators, that's where the biggest future growth opportunities lie. So if they have to expand their market share, if they have to serve more customers, that's where they have to expand. People in rural areas need access to financial services as much as people in urban areas need that access. And they are willing to pay, but they need appropriate services. They need appropriately designed products and delivery channels which deliver them services efficiently and in time when they need and where they need. There are a number of solutions which have been being tried by different institutions, such as by working on alternative delivery channels, by setting up agent networks, by working with mobile network operators and mobile money agents, by working with agency banking, by working with informal groups such as savings groups or village savings and loan associations, supporting rural finance institutions, community-based organizations. So there are a number of approaches to support rural financial services, and the banks and financial service providers that we are supporting are trying out these different approaches. We have recently launched a fairly large initiative in the area of rural and agriculture finance. So that initiative will support banks to come up with innovative financing solutions to support rural and agriculture finance in different countries in Africa.
Why Go Rural is 31% of Uganda's population is financially excluded, using informal ways of savings and financial services, and 15% are excluded completely. And yet 87% of our population is in the rural. So we need to get people in the rural financially included, and the only way we can do it is through digital finance, mobile money and mobile banking.
OTC, we are the agent in the rural area. This one will help customers or people in rural area can have the bank service easily, convenient and near for their home, and help them to save cost on transferring to reach to the bank. And also to help the agents in the rural area have more income on their current business and have more footfall for their business also. And for the bank at the same time, also can expand the customer in rural area and then to make up our
because Laos is not yet development country. Yeah, so that many of the Lao people cannot access to the financial or access to the bank. So that we are strengthened in the coverage area of the mobile network, so that we can reach them by the mobile network that we now on service now.
So under the MM4P, we are looking at scaling up our mobile banking platform to see how do we increase further the access to our services to the rural, and we are looking at especially women in the rural. These are the people who are holding the households. These are people who are working hard. They are saving for their goals, and the most important goals are school fees for their children.
The MasterCard Foundation advances financial inclusion in sub-Saharan Africa. We believe technology and partnerships are going to be a critical driver of extending access to financial services to those who need it most.
We went rural because that is where most of the Nepal's population lives, and that's the place where people don't have bank accounts, or they don't see the need to have bank accounts.
Going with the digital financial services in the rural area is the most powerful thing you can ever do, particularly to promote and enhance financial inclusion and empower women in the rural areas. With regards to where most of these people live, they live in the rural areas. And so digital financial services will play a key role in including them in the financial formal system.